unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego Unpacked. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Hall of Fame trainer Freddie Roach says he is tired of hearing that Vasyl Lomachenko is the #1 boxer in the sport. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Now I had to make this update video before I start. ESPN Plus, sign up below. Tyson Fury fights against Otto Wallen this weekend, along with a lot of other content they have on ESPN Plus. I'm an affiliate, so it helps the channel. The link is in the description of all my videos. Now, Freddie Roach, he did a recent interview, and he said some interesting stuff. He referenced, he kind of brought it up on his own. Like the question, if you look at the reporters around him, no one really brought that up. But he says, basically, Lomachenko, I'm tired of hearing that he is the #1 boxer. He's just not. And then, some of the reporters kind of laughed, shrugged it off, laughed it off. And he said, no, I'm serious. He's not. Lomachenko's not the best fighter. And then they said, who is? In which Freddie Roach, he replied, Terence Crawford. They said, okay, well, if Crawford's #1, who is #2? And he said, ERROL Spence. But they need to fight each other. And that was kind of the extent. And I think he said he wanted Pacquiao to fight Lomachenko. Listen, once again, new media. I've been telling you guys, you can run from the truth, but the truth will find a way. It always finds a way to come to the forefront. And Freddie Roach, he's a legendary trainer. He's had a great ride with Manny Pacquiao, Cotto, and a ton of other guys, and brought them to the promised land in their careers and helped them. And he's been around the sport, and he's a fighter himself, and he's saying what I've been telling you on the channel regarding Lomachenko. See, this is the thing. When I say it, all of a sudden I'm the bad guy, and people start bringing up race and say there's ulterior motives or I'm biased. And then when you have a Caucasian trainer in Freddie Roach who's saying something about a Caucasian fighter, I don't hear or see people in the comment section approaching it the same way and saying Freddie's just so biased and he hates Lomachenko, and he's saying verbatim what I've been saying. But the difference is, for me, I don't wait for anybody to say these things. I just tell you what I see, and it just goes to show you that the fanboys and the man fans, they can run from the truth and clamor and say whatever they want, but nobody in the sport of boxing believes it. I've long been on board and told you that skillfully Terence Crawford is right now, he's the guy holding the torch. Before, I had Crawford #2 when Andre Ward was around, but then when he retired, that left a void, just like when Floyd retired, and it made way for Andre Ward. I never had Andre Ward above Floyd Mayweather based on what they had both accomplished, but as soon as Floyd retired, I think Andre Ward was that man, right? And then when Andre Ward announced his retirement and he's doing other stuff like hosting and whatnot, then I think Crawford is the natural fit. To me, Terence Crawford just looks extremely hard to beat. He shows different wrinkles, different shades of his game. He's been the boxer, an outboxer, used his legs. He has brawled. He has done both. He has fought ambidextrously. He fought as an orthodox fighter. He fights as a southpaw, and he does this all sometimes in the same fight. He'll be losing as orthodox, not losing, but giving up more shots than he likes or whatnot. And he'll make the switch and then switch his whole game plan, and then they can't touch him. They don't know what to do with him as a southpaw. So skillfully, that is far superior than anything I've seen from Lomachenko. Listen, people like ESPN and Tim Bradley and these man fan channels and writers and stuff that are talking about Lomachenko, They're not telling you what he's doing to be number one pound for pound. Beyond that, just like Terence Crawford, Lomachenko has moved up the same amount of weight classes, if I'm not mistaken. The difference is Terence Crawford, they're trying to pit him against the number one person right now. Even after his first fight, after he beat Jeff Horn, you already heard people talking about Crawford fighting Errol Spence. You get what I'm saying? Even before Crawford got to the division, when you just knew he was going to be a welterweight, you heard the chatters of that. Meanwhile, Lomachenko never fought Mikey Garcia. Him and his team are saying he might move back down. He might move back down 2 divisions. He made excuses to not fight Manny Pacquiao at 140. He said he wanted to fight Terence Crawford years ago, and then he just completely abandoned that game plan. You know, it's just, how can he be the best person in the sport? Again, Lomachenko has skill. He's talented. You know, he has the gold medals. But when people bring up Lomachenko, they talk more about his amateur pedigree than they really do. The other thing is, it's laughable and farcical that people reference Lomachenko, and he has so few fights as a pro. He has less than 20 fights. Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, you know, all these other guys have more fight. Devin Haney and Ryan Garcias and people like that are way younger, you know, years younger, and already have more fights, you know. And you could say Lomachenko has some good names, but as he should, he has 2 gold medals and he's an older age. So he stuck around. Nobody told him to stick around in the AMs as long as he did. But he wanted, the Olympics comes once every 4 years. So that was his personal decision to stay an amateur to compete for 2 separate Olympic games. So by the time he got into the pro, and he did the world of boxing, like it's kind of like the WBSS, it's kind of a tournament like that, which was closer to regular boxing rules, no headgear and stuff. And I think they even got paid. So he has like 6 fights in that, where he fought Jose Ramirez, who's now a champion, and beat him, things like that. So Lomachenko has 406, 407 fights as an amateur between the Olympics and all that. So naturally, he was on a faster track. He was older than other people, and he had 2 gold medals. But yet and still, he doesn't even have 20 fights, and he has a loss. He lost his second pro fight, which he never avenged, and there was no pressure for him to avenge. Like, look at Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is in a do or die fight right now with Andy Ruiz. You can say he's foolish, you can commend him, whatever you want to do, but he's trying to set the record straight here and now that he's better than Andy Ruiz. December 7th, we're going to find out. How come Lomachenko fought Orlando Salido in 2013, I want to say, before Mayweather and Pacquiao? We still haven't received a rematch in that fight. Now, at this point, it doesn't even matter, because we've seen Salido, he was stealing beers, and he lost to Mickey Roman, who lost to Miguel Berchelt. But we don't even see Lomachenko fight similar styles. Like, Miguel Berchelt has a style closer, or probably closest, you know, to rugged Mexican fighters. But I think Berchelt can box more than Salido, you know what I'm saying? Plus, he's rugged, and he's a volume puncher. You know, how come Lomachenko left 130 instead of fighting Miguel Berchelt? Everybody always talks about Tank, you know, who's on a line with a different company and different side of the street and all that. But Berchelt is a top ranked fighter. Berchelt, that would have been a great fight for him, you know. But Francisco Vargas, 2 Mexican fighters had to fight each other. Lomachenko didn't fight him, you know, and that would have been a great fight. So it's just not making sense. I agree 1,000% with Freddie Roach. I think Lomachenko's good, but I definitely don't think he's the number 1 pound for pound. Plus, you look at, since Lomachenko has moved up in weight, his fights have noticeably gotten harder. And it's to the point where his fights have gotten so hard that they've talked about him moving back down in weight. Typically, if you're on anybody's pound for pound number 1 list, that's not the case. Like, you don't hear Danny Garcia talking about going back down to 140. You don't hear about Terence Crawford talking about going back down to 140. If anything, Crawford said he might go up to 54, you know. And then Lomachenko is supposed to be number 1 pound for pound. Let old media tell it. And they're talking about him fighting Inouye at featherweight, you know, possibly regressing and going back down 2 divisions. Possibly going back down the division to fight Gervonta Tank Davis, who just moved up to 135. So Freddie Roach is saying the same thing I've been saying. The walls are closing in for Vasyl Lomachenko. Old media, ESPN, Tim Bradley, Ring Magazine, all these people, they can try as long as they can to hold on and make it look like Lomachenko is the number 1 pound for pound, but I just don't see it. Again, look at Lomachenko's fights and performances in his new division. First of all, he's not even in a talent-rich division like that. The best names in the division for him are people who are young, and they're so young, they don't have the resume names that they want, and they all want to fight him. Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and now Gervonta Tank Davis and Teofimo Lopez, but they don't all have like killer resumes because they're so young in the game and they're still working on that. Tank probably has the best resume out of them, but at the end of the day, Lomachenko hasn't fought any of them. He hasn't fought any of those guys. Teofimo's on the same side of the fence as him, and he said he got to get a belt and do this and that, but you can fight Anthony Corolla, so the walls are closing in. I just don't see even with old media insisting, I don't see Lomachenko staying number 1 pound for pound on anybody's list. Again, Crawford is since his hardest fight to me was Gamboa, everything else has been relatively easy since then. He just looks like he's getting better and better. Jeff Horn just fought at middleweight. I know he lost, but he has a win too. He beat and stopped Anthony Mundane up there at middleweight. You get what I'm saying? And Crawford moved up 7 pounds where Jeff Horn had beat Pacquiao, and I was at that fight, and Crawford destroyed Jeff Horn and stopped him and made it look easy, whereas Pacquiao just beat Keith Thurman. This is how styles make fights. Keith Thurman just lost to Pacquiao, but Pacquiao couldn't convincingly, cleanly beat Jeff Horn in his home country. I thought Pacquiao won the fight. Needless to say, it wasn't Pacquiao's best work. He didn't look it was a fun fight, but Pacquiao wasn't fighting smart, and he left some things up to the judges that he shouldn't have. But Terence Crawford, he found a way to get it done. When Jeff Horn was a champion and couldn't make weight, Jeff Horn had a way. I was at that fight. He had a weigh in naked and all this stuff. And you look how Terence Crawford is dispatching of those guys. You look how he beat Amir Khan, a silver medalist, and basically made him not want to continue and look for a way out and quit. Basically, that's what I looked at it as. And then Jose Benavidez, somewhat competitive, but Crawford started to pull away to me. And then he ends up getting a stoppage in the 12th round against a bigger guy, right? And Jose Benavidez, who him and his brother are good fighters, amateur backgrounds and stuff like that. And he was bigger, and he wasn't afraid of Crawford. He sounded confident, and he sounded like he was really coming to, lay it all down. And he did, he tried, and he still lost. Crawford found a way in that 12th round with that uppercut, and that was that. But you look at Lomachenko's performances, they keep saying he's number 1 pound for pound, the Matrix, and no Moschenko. Who is he no most? Anthony Corolla? Because he fought Jose Pedraza, hurt him. First of all, he didn't look that great in the fight. And then in the 11th round, he hurt him, threw a million punches, still didn't stop him, and allowed him to exit out of the 11th round and make it in the 12th round and still go to the scorecards. And then Jorge Linares, he got stopped, but that was competitive. He also got dropped in that fight. And then Corolla got smashed, but that was the biggest underdog out of the guys he's fought at lightweight. And then his last fight was against Luke Campbell, and that was highly competitive as well. And he hurt Campbell, but Campbell also hurt him. And, I think Lomachenko pulled away in the championship rounds, but it was still competitive. And this is a guy who already had 2 losses to Mendez, Vindy Mendez or some shit, and Jorge Linares. So it's not like Luke Campbell, I know he's a gold medal in the amateurs, but he hadn't really done nothing like Mikey Garcia or something at lightweight. We hadn't really had no performances against good names like that. Mikey Garcia in multiple divisions fought the best. He fought the Salidos, a guy who beat Lomachenko, dropped Salido 4 times, fought Juanma, and Rocky Martinez before Lomachenko, beat Broner decisively at 140, beat Sergey Lipinets, who just put Lamont Peterson into retirement. So Lomachenko, he has not beaten nobody like a Mikey Garcia at 135, or a guy with Mikey Garcia's skills and pedigree and stuff like that. And yet and still old media keeps telling you he's number 1 pound for pound. And it's just funny. The walls are closing in. You see Freddie Roach and other people saying nah. And he's saying Terence Crawford and Errol Spence are the number 1 and 2 spots. So, old media, this has got to be their worst year. Everything they say is looking to be false. Nobody believes it, and nobody's buying it. Again, Lomachenko's a good fight, but comparing him to Muhammad Ali and saying he's number 1, I'm just not seeing it. His fights has been close. He's, his team is coming up with excuses about he's a true featherweight. That's loser talk. That's stuff. If you were dominating your new division, and doing good for yourself, then you wouldn't be talking about going back down. And that's not something that you historically see, Like, you don't hear Jermall Charlo talking about going back down to 54. He did what he did at 54. Now he's a 60-pounder, right? And that's just that. Lomachenko is talking about going back down. There's a reason, because his fights are getting tougher. And again, he hasn't even fought no Mikey Garcia caliber person. Everybody Lomachenko has fought Mikey Garcia would knock out. Definitely beat them. He knocked down Sergey Lipinets, and I think he hurt Broner as well, at 140. So you think Linares would have beat Mikey at 135? Do you think Anthony Corolla would have beat Mikey? Do you think Jose Pedraza, who got stopped by Tank at 130 and moved up and only had 2 fights, would lose to Mike? You think he would beat Mikey at 135? Do you think Luke Campbell would beat Mikey? Come on, man. Truth be told, Devin Haney, everyone thought he was going to get the shot with Luke Campbell. I would favor him to beat Luke Campbell as well. So, I don't know, man. It is what it is, but I agree with Freddie Roach here. I think Lomachenko, they keep calling him the number 1 pound for pound. I don't see what we're basing it off of. So we unpack, coming to you live. Let me know what you guys think. Who is the number 1 pound for pound? Even guys like Inouye, me personally, I wouldn't put Inouye at the number 1 spot. But when it comes to skillful pound for pound fighters, I see him showing a lot more separation than Lomachenko. Lomachenko, when he was bigger than his opponents, it was no problem. At featherweight and at 130, he looked bigger than most of his opponent, if anything, the same size. Now that the guys are his size or bigger, you hear the excuses and the performances don't look quite the same. You don't see the no Lomachenko. And I think that's very telling. Similar to Triple G. When Triple G was fighting Adamas and guys like that, he was destroying Macklins and all that. But when he got up to the Danny Jacobs of the world, Kell Brooks and Canelos, he couldn't just destroy him easy. I know he stopped Kell Brook, but it didn't look like it was easy. Like he hurt Kell Brook, and then Kell Brook rallied back in the second round and was bobbing his head up with uppercuts and stuff like that. So I think Lomachenko is being met with a lot more resistance. Terence Crawford is fighting gold medalist himself and making it look easy. Like he stopped Gamboa, dropped him, I think, 4 times. Felix Diaz, another Olympian and gold medalist, he was like playing with him and beat him into retiring on the stool. And the thing with Crawford is he's such in the zone, is guys fight Crawford and don't look the same. Like he steals their soul. Jose Pedraza just moved up again in weight, I believe, and got a stop. Like he got a win. I think it was a stoppage. So it's different. Crawford got guys like, soul snatching. Victor Postal got stopped by, or he lost, I think, after that fight. But it was Ndongo. After Ndongo lost to Crawford, he got stopped by Regis Prograis after that. You know what I'm saying? And guys just don't seem to look the same. We haven't seen Jose Benavidez come back. He was supposed to fight Luis Collazo, and then he's injured. you know? So he hasn't even returned since the Crawford fight. Jeff Horn got stopped, you know, in his last fight. I know he moved into different divisions, but it is what it is. Guys don't look the same after Crawford. So D's definitely the pound for pound guy, you know, in terms of skill and mixing it up, things like that. And that's why you see people, instead of like Lomachenko, they're telling Lomachenko to move back down where it's safer. You get what I'm saying? Terence Crawford, they want him to fight the other #1 welterweight, 1A and 1B, which is ERROL Spence, who seems to be a wrecking ball. But when you have the complexion for the protection like Lomachenko, they tell you to move back down if it gets too hard, if it's too hot in the kitchen. It's hilarious. New media, old media looking crazy. We Unpacked coming to you live. Let me know what you guys think of Freddie Roach's comments. He's just merely speaking his mind, saying what I've been telling y'all. So what you got to say now? Drop a comment. We work. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.